Okay, good morning or good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, depending on when you have this class, either first hour, third hour, or sixth hour. This is our plan for the day, today being Wednesday, March the 11th. If you remember back to what we talked about yesterday, the whole focus of today's class is to work through your individual amendment. Now, all of you have turned in your written amendment. What we're going to work through today will be your oral presentation and your defense of your amendment, all right? We're going to work through this in a couple of different ways. Each of you are going to need a notebook piece of paper on your desk ready to go with this information. And each of you I'm going to work through the process here very quickly. Each of you are going to come up to the board, write your student name, very briefly put your amendment proposal together on the board. You're going to write both, again, your student name and your amendment proposal on the board. After that, you are then going to address the entire class with a minute and a half, 90 seconds, to tell us about what your amendment is and tell us very specifically what your amendment will do. You're telling us the positives, why we should support your amendment. Again, that's 90 seconds to develop that amendment proposal. At the end of those 90 seconds, which everyone in here should keep track of those 90 seconds within the classroom, at the end of those 90 seconds, you're going to turn this to an open and free-flowing press conference. At that point, your fellow classmates will ask you questions specifically about your amendment. Now, they may not know the detail that you know concerning your individual proposal, but they're going to ask you specific questions that they want either further elaboration on, more detail. Even specifically, they can be critical of your amendment with some of their questions. They want to know more specifics about that amendment proposal that you're trying to get passed. I want to state a couple of things about your amendment proposal, whether it's passing or whether it doesn't. We're working through the whole process here to figure out the intellectual exercise of your amendment, to figure out the details of your amendment. But with passage, keep in mind, as I mentioned yesterday, this does not necessarily impact the grade at all. We just want to figure out whether or not your amendment will pass or will it not pass. Keep in mind, we're talking about 75% of the class has got to vote for and pass. It has to vote for, I should say, that amendment for it to pass. 75%. So each class period, whether it be first hour, third hour, or sixth hour, is going to have a different number in order to get that amendment passed. 75% is the key, 3/4. Again, this goes directly to the Constitution, Article 5. We're following this very carefully, but we're following it carefully in the mind that this is the second step in the process. We're assuming that your amendment has already cleared the first hurdle. We're now to the point where you've got to get 3/4 or 75% of your fellow classmates to vote for it. And we're going to do this in a very simple way. Each of your classmates will have a number of pieces of paper cut, very small, that you're simply going to put a yes or a no on. You're either voting for or against this amendment in its entirety. Again, your amendment proposal, voting it up as a yes or voting it down for each one of the proposals. I think today we'll try to get through about 8, 9, maybe 10 proposals per class period. Again, 90 seconds to propose it. That's each one of you will propose that in 90 seconds. And then the rest of the time, about 4.5 minutes to possibly 5, will be to address all of those concerns or questions with your proposal. That's the plan for today, to get through about between 8 and 10. With that also, each one of you as students who are in the classroom will write down the student name and the amendment proposal. I would take down a note or two, or possibly even write down your question as they're presenting their amendment proposal that you, seated in the classroom, are going to be able to ask them. You want to be engaged. At any point, you would be required from the substitute or yourself just raising your hand to ask a question. Again, to challenge that proposal, to give more clarity to that proposal. That's your decision on how you want to approach that, but the engagement here is the important piece. Sixth hour has already started one of their proposals, and they did a very nice job. Took about 4.5 to 5 minutes on the proposal. This was on the 18-year-old drinking age. And they did a very nice job with engagement, asking questions specifically of that student and challenging their idea. Again, the vote number, do not vote for this person based on they're your best friend or you think this idea is terrific just on its surface level. You want to vote for this amendment based on how well they present it and how well they take questions from you. Force them to defend their proposal. Extraordinarily important, and again, that vote will be taken after each one of the amendment proposals. Okay? That's the plan for today. We're going to try to get through, like I say, about between 8 and 10 students in each of the class periods. Just a couple of other reminders throughout the week. We're going to continue this on Friday. Monday, which is next week Monday, don't forget the fact that you're going to have that short amendment quiz. Open book, open constitution, anything that you want to bring to the table except a digital device of any type will help you with that amendment. And then again on Tuesday next week, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to deal with the idea of eminent domain on Tuesday. So again, just a quick review. Today we're going to finish off 7, 8, maybe 9 amendments. We'll do the same thing on Friday. Monday, we'll spend our time working through that amendment quiz, open book, open notes, and then Tuesday we'll go through the eminent domain idea and get some of your personal thoughts on eminent domain. I mentioned again on today specifically that as a reminder, think about an amendment or a eminent domain idea or something that you've seen or come across even locally where eminent domain has been a good example. And I think we've seen many of those examples not only in Vilas but also in Oneida County. So start thinking about some of those ideas for next week, Tuesday.